The top stories: India expresses commitment to use BRICS to deepen ties with Ethiopia. And UN says conflict between army and RSF contributes to food insecurity in Sudan. Hello and welcome to EBC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism, with the latest news highlights of the hour. I am Tabitha John. Do stay with us. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hosted leaders of the Ethiopian Islamic Affairs Supreme Council and Islamic religious figures from various states for an iftar program the previous evening. Abiy also held discussions with the leaders of the Ethiopian Islamic Affairs Supreme Council and fathers from various regions this afternoon on pertinent issues. Greece expressed commitment to scale up ties to Ethiopia in many areas, especially in the fields of culture. Greece Hellenic Republic President Katerina Sakelopoulou made the remark while conferring with their Ethiopian counterpart Sahle-Work Zewde. The two discussed at length ways of bolstering the historic bonds of friendship and cooperation during talks at the presidential mansion in Greece. The president is in Greece on the occasion of the Women Political Leaders Summit taking place in Athens. Saying that there is dynamic presence of the Greek community in Ethiopia, Sakelopoulou emphasized that diaspora has been serving as a bridge that strengthens the bonds of friendship. For her part, President Sahle-Work Zewde pointed out that Ethiopia and Greece have been enjoying bilateral ties spanning several decades, adding there is growing need to elevate these ties to new heights. The 12th edition of the Aviation Stakeholders Convention and Africa's first Safety and Operations Summit will be held on from 12th to 15th May 2024 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, at the Ethiopian Skylight Hotel under the patronage of the government of Ethiopia. Held under the theme Beyond Connecting African Aviation, the convention is expected to attract over 500 high-profile delegates from the aviation industry in Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and North America. The convention is the industry's ideal platform to drive growth opportunities and deliberate on the development of African aviation industry. AFRA, the African Airlines Association, in partnership with the Flight Safety Foundation (FSF), will stage the inaugural African Safety and Operations Summit on 15th May 2024. The event will be organized back-to-back with AFRA's Aviation Stakeholders Convention, taking place from 12th to 14th May at the Skylight Hotel in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Times Aerospace reported that the theme of the summit is Championing Africa Aviation Safety Together.
The Aksumite Empire was a naval and trading power that ruled the region from about 400 BC into the 10th century AD. Aksum was described as one of the four great powers of its time, the others being Persia, Rome, and China. The Ark of the Covenant is said to be hidden in the Church of St. Mary of Zion, but replicas of the Tabot are kept in every Ethiopian Orthodox church. Outside the church there is the famous Northern Stele field. The numerous monolithic columns, or stele, are fashioned out of solid granite. It remains a mystery by whom and for what purpose they were made, although they were likely associated with the burials of emperors. The largest monolith in the world, measuring over 33 meters and weighing about 500 tons, fell in the 4th century AD and now lies in broken fragments on the ground.
Welcome back. The newly appointed Indian ambassador to Ethiopia said India is desirous to deepen the long-standing bilateral relations with Ethiopia. The ambassador, who presented his credentials to President Sahle-Work Zewde, told the Ethiopian news agency that the two countries have many development priorities to ensure sustainable development. Habtamu Ashagri takes it from here.
The newly Indian ambassador to Ethiopia, Anil Kumar Rai, who presented his credentials to President Sahle-Work Zewde, said he has received guidance from both Indian and Ethiopian leaderships to deepen the cooperation between the countries.
Both these countries are having a very long history of cooperating each other, and I think that this cooperation has many dimensions, and these dimensions can further be widened and scaled up.
The ambassador pointed out that there are many developmental priorities of India and Ethiopia which need to be addressed together, and the leadership at the top are closely working on these issues. Ethiopia's recent membership in the BRICS will further help to work together to ensure Ethiopia's participation to maximize value and voice of developing countries within the group, he stated.
This year, Ethiopia has become a full member of BRICS, and we as a BRICS member, founding member of BRICS, we are working closely with Ethiopia to ensure that their participation in BRICS brings more value, and it brings a new dimension to the multilateral this multilateral forum, and become a voice, true voice for the developing countries.
Middle East, Asia, and Pacific countries Affairs Director General Gebeyehu Ganga said Ethiopia and India have a well-established relationship on both bilateral and multilateral political matters. Ethiopia and India have a well-established relationship encompassing investment, trade, people-to-people exchanges, science and technology cooperation, and collaboration on both bilateral and multilateral political matters, he pointed out. India is among the top 5 investors in Ethiopia, according to the Director General. Ganga added that Ethiopia has been an African voice for so long, and the countries will strive to be leading voices for the South-South cooperation.
Sudanese farmers have abandoned their farms due to the ongoing conflict between Sudan's army and the rival Rapid Support Forces. The UN has warned of looming hunger. Prices of most food crops have gone up, worsening the already high inflation in the country. Johannes Fantahun has more.
Even as the fighting goes on across Sudan, there are still some farms where crops are thriving and harvest looks promising. The farmers in the region near to Port Sudan are doing well. Peace in the region has helped farmers continue growing food, but that is not the case in most parts of Sudan. Fighting between the army and the rival Rapid Support Forces has forced many people to flee their homes and farms. Millions have been displaced across the North African country, and the UN has warned of looming hunger. Food production has reduced in many regions. Prices of most food crops have gone up, worsening the already high inflation in the country. The situation has been made worse by a shortening of farm workers. Many Sudanese say they are struggling to cope with the high food prices, particularly during this Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
There's a very big increase in prices. As a citizen coming from Khartoum, Every day I find huge increases. I don't know why. And now in Ramadan, the prices have increased, but I don't know why.
The United Nations has warned that 5 million people in Sudan may face catastrophic food insecurity. And the World Food Programme says 25 million people in the country are facing food insecurity. As the fighting continues, the humanitarian crisis is worsening.
The UN reports issued on Sudan during the previous period regarding food shortages or famine in Sudan, I think these are reports that describe the reality that the Sudanese are suffering during the war that continued for a year so far. So, I do not think that they are false reports or mistaken or unrealistic reports. Therefore, I think that when the government denies the existence of famine or the threat of famine or food security, this is completely contrary to reality, because Sudan is witnessing war, and even before the war, there were reports that warned that Sudan was in a food security disaster because the Sudanese economy itself was falling and collapsing.
The rainy season is expected in May in Gadaref state near the border with Ethiopia. The region produces about 40% of Sudan's green crop, but given the existing challenges, there are concerns that production may not be that high this time round. As calls from ceasefire growing louder across Sudan and the fighting continues, many Sudanese farmers are hoping that peace will return so that they can go back to their farms and produce the much-needed food crops.
And finally, Gaza's 2 million people are experiencing severe levels of acute food insecurity, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said. This was the first time an entire population had been so classified, he said, when questioned by the BBC about conditions in the territory. Blinken called on Israel to prioritize providing for those in need. UN agencies have said North Gaza could face famine by May without a pause in the fighting and a surge in aid. Gosho Meliso takes us through the remainder of the story.
At Gaza's southern strip, the aftermath of another Israeli airstrike, 1.4 million displaced people now sheltering in Rafah, and Israel has made it clear it wants to go further. The ground offensive planned to remove Hamas from Gaza entirely, but there is international pressure to avoid even more days. The message from Israel's allies to its leaders is getting stronger.
Our position is that Hamas should not be allowed a safe haven in Rafah or anywhere else, but a major ground operation there would be a mistake.
As Rafah's displaced fear what might come next, their presence is just as hard. Medical supplies, water and food are scarce.
My daughter said that she wants to eat boiled eggs. And I say, how can I bring you boiled eggs? The situation does not allow us to. Our situation was below zero before the war. So what do you expect after the war? Worse and worse.
In the north of Gaza, famine is now just weeks away. Few aid convoys are reaching that part of the strip. U.S. top diplomat Antony Blinken said more needs to be done to save lives.
If you look at some of the assessments that we're seeing now, they only underscore the urgency of making sure that this assistance is a priority and that it's sustained. Again, according to the most respected measure of these things, 100% of the population in Gaza is at severe levels of acute food insecurity. That's the first time an entire population has been so classified.
Talks to the ceasefire have resumed in Qatar.
Cautiously optimistic that the negotiations have continued.
But the deal will take time. In Gaza's rubble, the prospect of pause in fighting feels fear away to the ceasefire.
You're watching ABC World, a reminder of the top stories. India expresses commitment to use BRICS to deepen ties with Ethiopia. And UN says conflict between army and RSF contributes to food insecurity in Sudan. That's all we had for now. I'm Tabitha John. Thank you for watching. Have a good time.
Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome to Addis Dialogue with me, Shifara Olako. The Freedom Fund has been at the forefront of the global battle against modern slavery, tirelessly working towards its eradication in the most vulnerable regions and industries. And today, I'm so honored to have on my show the CEO of Freedom Fund, Nick Gronholm. With his extensive experience in the battle against slavery and also in advocating human rights, he has been instrumental in driving impactful change. And prior to his being the CEO of Freedom Fund, he also was instrumental in esteemed international organizations such as the Walk Free Foundation and the International Crisis Group. Do stay with us.